Hello, 8 Green students. Today we're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. And this is actually a pretty complex process. I'm going to try to simplify it for you, but understand that this is a very watered down, simplified version. The process is actually fairly complicated, and part of that was done on purpose to make sure that Congress didn't pass a bunch of unnecessary laws. All right, step one. Somebody proposes a law. It's either introduced in the Senate or the House. For our purposes, we'll say a bill is going to be introduced in the Senate. And for our example today, we're going to say that a senator has introduced a law that there is a national curfew for all citizens 17 years or younger at 11 p.m. Okay, national curfew, 17 years or younger, 11 p.m. Step two, the bill is assigned to a committee. This committee is going to review it and study it, and they're going to bring in experts. They're going to talk about the pros and cons. In our case, they'd probably look at, teenage instances of car wrecks, violence, anything like that that happens, after 11 p.m., okay? The committee at that point can delay action on it, meaning they just say, you know what, we're not going to do anything with this right now. They can change the bill. Maybe they want to change the age or the time frame of the curfew. They can approve the bill as is, and it would move on to step three, or they can do what's called killing the bill. They basically can say, this is not a good bill, this is not a good proposed law, we're going to kill it right here. So the bill has died at that point. That's just the terminology they use. But in our case, we're going to say they've approved the bill. If the bill passes the committee, it then goes to the full House. So in this case, the full Senate. So all 100 senators get to debate it. They can change it. They're going to talk about it. And eventually, they're going to vote on it. Okay, so let's say they vote on it, and let's say that they pass it out of the Senate. At this point, because it passed the Senate, it's going to actually go to the House of Representatives now, and it's going to go through those same steps again. There's going to be a House committee. They're going to debate it, talk about it, change it if they want, and then vote on it. And then it's going to go to the full House, all 435 members, and they will do the same thing. They'll vote on it, debate it, change it if necessary, etc. So we're going to say that the House of Representatives, it gets introduced, and we're going to say that they've made some tweaks to it. Okay, we're going to say that they've changed the bill to have a national curfew for anybody 15 years or younger at 9 p.m. So the original one was 17 years or younger at 11 p.m. They're going 15 years or younger at 9 p.m. So in this case, it has passed both houses, but it passed in a different form. So now we have to have what's called a conference committee. And so the conference committee is made up of senators and representatives, so members from each house, and they come together to form a conference committee, and they are looking to create a compromised version of the bill. So a compromise is when we take stuff from this side, and we kind of come to an agreement in the middle. So for our example, the compromised version would be 16 years or older, 10 p.m. curfew. Or 16 years or younger, 10 p.m. curfew. Okay? So that's the compromised version that this conference committee has come up with. Now, this bill is slightly different than either of the bills that was passed by the Senate or the House. So at this point, the Senate and the House have to re-vote on this new compromised version of the bill. Okay, so now we're voting on 16 years or younger, 10 p.m. curfew. If the new version passes, it's then going to go to the president. Okay? At this point, the bill could not pass. It may not pass one of the houses, and if it doesn't pass, then the bill's dead. Okay? The bill got killed right there, and then we'd be done with the process. But we're going to assume, for our purposes, that the bill passes the House and the bill passes the Senate. So now it lands on the president's desk. Okay? The president has 10 days to take action on this bill. There's two main actions that the president typically takes on proposed laws. One, he signs it. If he signs it, if he likes it and he signs it, then boom, we're done. Step 7, the bill becomes a law. Okay, there is no step 8. If he vetoes it and rejects it, if he says, you know what, I don't quite like this law, I'm going to reject it, I'm going to veto it, then there will be a step 8, and we'll get to that in a second. There's a third option, which is called take no action. And if take no action occurs, then one of two things happen. There's either a 3A or a 3B. If the president takes no action in those 10 days, and if Congress is still officially in session, so Congress doesn't meet year round. They have different sessions where they meet and then they take what's called a recess. If Congress is still in session when the president doesn't take any action on it, then the bill automatically becomes law without the president's signature. If Congress has already stopped meeting, they've went into recess, and the president takes no action, it becomes what's called a pocket veto, and the bill is dead, and it basically goes away. And so it's kind of a way for the president to reject the bill without officially rejecting it. He just basically took no action on it. But we're going to say that the president vetoed it. He said, you know what, I don't quite like this law. There's some things about it that I don't like, so I'm going to reject it. And that's part of his checks and balances. But to counteract that checks and balance, Congress has its own checks and balance, and Congress can vote to override the president's veto by a 2/3 majority vote in each house, not just a simple majority. Okay, up to this point, Congress just had to get a simple majority, which is 50% plus 1. In this case, to override a presidential veto, you have to get 2/3 or almost 67% of each house of Congress to override a president's veto. So that would be 67 votes needed in the Senate and 290 votes needed in the House of Representatives. If that happens, if the Senate, 67 senators vote to override the president and 290 House of Representatives members vote to override the president, then the bill becomes a law. And so there you have it, 8 simple steps. Oh, I mentioned this terminology throughout. If the bill gets stopped along the way at any point, it is said to have died or the bill has been killed. And then again, the president's veto and the congressional override are both examples of checks and balances.